Jeremy.
Hello, awesome. How are you?
I am good. I'm laughing. It's a nervous laugh because because this is a super um, weird episode in the sense that when I invited you the first time to speak in my podcast, you remember you were going to talk about your experience as an attorney in a big law firm, then as an in-house counsel in a big company. We didn't do it. We didn't record that episode, and here we are today recording that's very, very special episode because, as many people know, you are unfortunately suffering from brain cancer. And the main goal of this episode is to raise awareness. And also, you're gonna talk about the GoFundMe that you started to help other people. Actually, I never heard of this particular cancer you have until
Yeah.
you announced it. So, so probably there are many people like me who never heard of it. So it's can what is it?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ansam. And I want to thank you for this incredible platform. You have been such an incredible friend to me. It now is approaching 10 years. We've both been very active in the International Maritime Bar, and it's an honor to be on your podcast, albeit a little bit sobering to be it with this topic of brain cancer.
Yeah.
I'm like you, Ansam. I had understood as a lawyer, and working in personal injury before, and also just in general, that brain cancer existed. But like many things in life, you kind of walk through life thinking that's horrible. I have compassion for people that suffer from that, but it probably will never happen to me.
Mm.
And the reality is that I got picked, and there's actually a lot of ways you can respond to it, but I'm choosing to respond to it with grace, compassion, and recognizing that life has always been impermanent. And as much as we in Western societies kind of think we've got it all figured out, we have all these big buildings, we go to the MD Andersons of the world and it'll get fixed. It's been reaffirmed to me just how fleeting and delicate life can be. Brain cancer, I've learned a lot about it in the last 3 months, and yeah, it's tough. The type of brain cancer that I've been diagnosed with is called a glioblastoma. And all of us, I'm full disclosure, I'm an admiralty lawyer, which means I know nothing really about brain cancer in general. So with that disclosure out there, what I've learned is that in our brain, we have something called glial cells, and they are our normal, healthy brain cells. And as is typical in most cancers, what happens is the structure of each cell, for some reason, gets malformed or deformed. And then the cell starts replicating in a bad way. It's kind of like one doctor said, it's like a factory producing a product that is defective, but unfortunately, the defective product produces more products and more products. The problem with brain cancer specifically is that it's in your brain, right? It's your operating system, it's your computer. If you get diagnosed with a melanoma, a skin cancer on your finger, you could still theoretically cut off your finger, and they try to cut the cancer away. And then they also try to cut away something called margins, which is they try to take some healthy cells and some healthy borders around it in case one of those cancer cells migrated. And if you do that on your pinky, you cut your index finger, you cut your index finger off, and then you go back for a couple of years. And if it's not proceeded further, we can say you don't have cancer there.
Mm.
The problem with brain cells is that obviously every time you cut another layer of tissue, you're reducing the operating system of our mind, of our consciousness. And so the other challenging thing is that in terms of how brain cancers go, Have you ever heard of like stage 1, stage 2 cancers? Do you know how that
Yeah,
works?
in cancers in general, there are different stages, but I'm not an
That's right.
expert, even if also I in my close people they have or had cancer. But I think we're all familiar with the,
Yeah.
fortunately everybody is familiar with that, but then as you said, there are some cancer that are more aggressive than
Yeah.
and yours isn't.
It, un- yeah, unfortunately, so with brain cancers, it's a little bit different than other cancers. And for anyone in the world that's listening to this, again, if you just came back with your coffee, I am not a brain cancer expert, but I've learned a lot and I've listened carefully as a lawyer to what I'm hearing. And to your point, Anselm, you're right. Like in some cancers, you hear, I've got stage 1 cancer, 2, 3, 4. Those stages really articulate how far the cancer is progressing. Is it at one space? Is it growing? Has it grown to other tissues? In brain cancer, what I've learned, you don't really have stages, so because it's all in your brain. Like it's not migrating necessarily to other parts of the brain, but you have grades. And the grade is indicative of how aggressive it is. And even within the grade, there are different types. So unfortunately, my brain cancer is a grade 4, which is the most aggressive. It's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of cancers. It's the most aggressive type, if you will. You can treat it, but the problem is that the cancer is very smart and it will grow around the treatment, if you will. And mine is a grade 4 glioblastoma, unmethylated wild type. It is the end of the road in terms of it is one of the most complex type of cancers to address. The way that cancer and brain cancer specifically is commonly addressed is in 3 ways. You have surgery to cut it out. You then do radiation, and then you then do chemotherapy, which is a pill that I've taken. And I've done all of those 3. We can talk a little bit more about how that went down, but
Yeah.
that's generally how it plays out. Unfortunately, the mean or median survival rate for glioblastoma at a grade 4 level is really about 18 to 30 months. And yes, there are outliers, and I hope to be one of those outliers.
Yes, we all hope, really. I mean, I know so many people, so many people, they're all praying for you, all sending so many positive vibes, and
Yeah,
so many people praying for you to be part of these people who
yeah,
uh, stay with us. But again, I remember, because what I noticed since you announced this publicly is that before you announced it, when I was sending you messages, the "Hi, how are you" was the introduction in the message, right? Yeah, because I assumed you were doing fine, and then
yeah,
I had the main content. But since you said you're sick, my messages to you were, "How are you?" And that's
yeah,
all. Because
yeah.
it's the main content of the message now. So how are you today?
I'm great. And I don't mean this to sound cavalier or with any dose of bravado, but I've been great since the evening of December 16th, 2025. That was when my wife and I presented to the hospital. And I'll just kind of tell you how it happened. But throughout all this, I want everyone to know the word that's really gotten me through all this is gratitude. I turned 48 last week, and I've had 48 incredible years of a very rich, full life, and I want 48 more. But I think in life we forget the fact that in every moment we really are having this opportunity to experience life, experience others, experience things that are impermanent. Yes, and lawyers are often guilty of this, right? We've always got a plan. I've got to get into law school. Okay, great. Now I've got to get into a firm. Great. Once I learn my substantive skills, I'll take a vacation. And then you're in the vacation, but you're thinking about other things, right? And so oftentimes, and I count myself in that number of the guilty. You kind of go through searching for the next thing without realizing you're in the moment right now. And it might not even be a real important moment. It doesn't have to be a graduation or you've just won trial. It could just be watching your kid draw on the wall, or maybe you and your wife or your partner just had this incredible, boring breakfast. But that's life. And each one of those moments aggregates to a beautiful life, you know?
And about your wife, she's
What's
incredible.
that?
Your wife, she's incredible. Norway.
Maroi is incredible. We've been together for 18 years. We met, I got off a ship in New Orleans. So my background, I went to Tulane for Admiralty Law School, or I went to South Carolina for law school, and then Tulane for maritime law. Like many people, fell in love with New Orleans. And we do a lot of shipboard work here in the US. And I was coming back from an investigation and wound up going to a Tulane pig roast and walked into my wife, who was in her first semester of Tulane Medical School. And you're right, Ansam, she's incredible. She is a physician that specializes in integrative medicine and internal medicine. And from the moment that this happened, I mean, she was by my side, and she's been by my side ever since. The way this kind of played out, I started having a loss of peripheral vision. And what I mean by that is you and I are looking at each other,
Yeah.
but your peripheral is on your side. So you're looking straight and you can see things on the side.
Mhm.
I started losing my left peripheral vision in early December when I was doing a half marathon training runs. And I told my wife, and it actually kind of came to a head when we were playing ping pong and I couldn't see my hand as it was passing through my visual field. And we went to the hospital and I had a CAT scan, and this is what came up on the CAT scan. You tell me if you see something that looks unusual.
Yeah, that big thing, that big circle.
Yeah, that big circle is a grade 4 glioblastoma about the size of a golf ball. And I knew that something was wrong without being a doctor. And I could see my wife, and obviously she was very shaken by it. But here's where gratitude comes in. And here's where just, I don't know, being thankful. Within a few minutes, my wife was able to start calling some of her contacts that specialize in glioblastoma. And within a week, I was under the knife of one of the world's best cranial surgeons at MD Anderson, which in the United States, very, very big, very distinguished cancer research center. And when you talk about that, for those of you who've made a commitment, we wear a ring here in the United States, right? In sickness and in health. In the middle of my surgery, I learned this after the fact that my wife kind of scrubbed in, or at least got my tumor from someone who had scrubbed in. And she walked it across about a quarter of a mile to another hospital in a cooler full of ice so that it could be studied. And lo and behold, that has now been turned into a novel vaccine. I'm part of phase 1 of a trial where they take your tumor, they take your white blood cells, they teach your white blood cells, which are the things that help fight infections, flus, et cetera. They're going to try to teach my white blood cells how to attack any further remaining pieces of the tumor that might be in my brain. And I just underwent my first series of injections in my neck last week. And so at every moment that you want to be down, and at every moment that you want to feel like there's no hope, you have to stop and marvel at all this, right? This technology, the hope that is given to me by beautiful friends like Ansam and others around the world who every day are, how are you doing? What's going on? I've been surrounded by people at MD Anderson that have no one around them, right? And to be able to navigate through this realm of brain cancer alone, terrifying, beyond terrifying. And all I can say is how grateful I am for this community that I have. And there's a lot of power in that.
But you know, so you were talking about the people asking you how you were. One question that I had every time I sent you, how are you, was, am I reminding him that he's sick by asking him this question? Should I
Yeah.
stop asking him this question? Because I don't do that normally, just say, how are you?
Yeah.
So it's something very abnormal. So
Yeah.
maybe by doing so, I am, instead of helping you, I am reminding you of your situation.
No.
How,
No,
how do you feel? You want people to keep on sending you, how are you? Or
no, you know, I am, it's a very interesting question. And I actually remember right before this happened, I read an article. I can't remember what magazine I read it in, but it was about grief, for example. And I just found it interesting. And it was about and a family that unfortunately lost a young child. I mean, devastating, right? If for all of us that have children, and even if not, that's about as high as it gets. And I remember the young mother saying, I really wish more people would be comfortable just asking me, like, no, how are you doing? And is there anything we can do to help? Because she'd go to these parties and it would be awkward because everyone wanted to ask that question and wanted to hold her, but they were afraid or they didn't know what the boundaries were. Every person's different. There are many cancer survivors, and I consider myself one until I'm not, that would not be this vocal about approaching this, or they would not want people to ask them. So I do think it's a personal thing on a case by case basis. But it does illustrate the point where you're in an elevator, right? You get in the law office elevator. Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm great. Good. Bye.
yeah,
But you would be thrown off if you're like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Actually, I've got a grade 4 unmethylated wild type glioblastoma, and I've been given
yeah,
only 2 years to live. That's how my day's going, you know?
yeah, yeah. That I don't know if someone that I don't know
Yeah.
responds this way in an elevator. I think I would have a few minutes of complete silence
Yeah.
because you don't know how what to respond. And yes, as you said, you have a lot of people who want to help you, but it's also because you are the person who always helps. I mean, I don't
Mm,
remember
mm,
one time I asked for any kind of support. I mean, even when talking, sometimes you don't need the financial help, but you need some mental support.
yeah.
And you were there all the time. And eh,
I'm hoping you would say that.
I mean, the thing is, you listen to people.
Mm,
And this is exceptional because most of the times people don't listen to other people. So they give an advice that is, do that, don't do this, okay? But they don't take the time to listen to you. So they
mm,
don't give you an advice that is applicable to your situation, to your personality, to your
mm.
state of mind. And you are one of these people who listen. And I remember, I mean, I was saying that in the in your birthday uh, video
I loved it. I
that
loved it.
I, I mean, I think you don't know all the times you helped me in our conversations.
Mm.
Just in
Well,
our conversation, random conversations, but for me it was super helpful.
you know, I,
It's
I've been,
amazing. Mm,
I'm so humbled you would say that. And it's interesting because this puts you in a place of humility where so many people have given reflections about me in prior instances, whether it was shipboard, whether it was in the courtroom, whether it was just you and I have had some late nights together in many places as we've built our relationship and with others in the international bar community. And I've always been taken aback by that because I just think I've always naturally been curious to learn about people and wanting to help them. I was raised in the United States, was very into scouting. I'm an Eagle Scout, and we're taught at a very early age to live in the service of others. It's a big part of my faith. I've been a practicing Zen Buddhist for about 30 years. Wasn't as vocal about it back then as I am now. A big part of Buddhism is service to others, considering yourself as a part of a community instead of just a button to hit like and me. And I've always felt like that was also an important aspect of my calling as a lawyer. Just helping others I've always enjoyed, and it's been really humbling. So many people have come out and said that, and I just don't see myself in that light, but it's humbling. That's all I'll say.
Because you are like this naturally. That's why you don't see yourself because you are like this naturally. You
Yeah.
don't calculate. And thinking about the good friends, I want to talk about Lauren Wilgus, our
Mm.
good friend who gives us news about you very regularly. And I know she's super touched
Well,
by this whole situation. And so, Lauren, we think of you.
I, I'm going to tell a fun story about Lauren. So, I practiced in New Orleans, and my wife, Maroe, was in the United States. When you graduate from medical school, you get sent to a different hospital, and she went to a really excellent hospital in New York City. And of course, I went with her, but like we learned, okay, we're moving to New York. And at the time, I was at a wonderful law firm called Phelps Dunbar in New Orleans. We had, I guess, thought I was going to be there forever, but now we're going to New York. And I was honored to get a position at Blank Rome that has a very big admiralty practice. And now you got to understand, like, I'm coming from New Orleans in a seersucker suit with a bow tie. And now little country boy goes to downtown Manhattan. And there are two words that saved me in that first year, and it's Lauren Wilgus. Lauren is a tough as nails, outstanding lawyer from northern New Jersey. And I definitely needed a wing lady to kind of teach me the tough streets of New York. But she has been probably one of my closest friends in industry. She is an outstanding lawyer. I've learned a lot from her on how to practice law, aside from just being an incredible friend. And I think she is typical of the type of people you meet in the United States Admiralty Bar. We've really prided ourselves on collegiality, on professionalism. People from other firms, and maybe it's the same in the French bar. There's just not a lot of people that practice admiralty law. And so you just form these relationships with people. But Lauren has definitely been by my side throughout all this. And she's really supported Maroe and I and the family. And I'm grateful for friends like her and you.
Yeah, and Mary and Cherry and all. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
there are many, many people. We cannot name absolutely everyone.
Totally.
They know, they know,
Totally.
they can identify themselves. So what's next now? So you've been treating this for the last 3 months?
Yeah. So the quick description, we talked about it a little bit. I started suffering kind of a loss of peripheral vision during a series of training runs. I went in on the 16th of December, and that's when they found the mass. That was later confirmed to be some type of a tumor, and they suspected it was glioblastoma. I underwent surgery on the 21st. You can't really see it, but I've got actually here, I have a picture of what it looked like. This is a little gory, but hey, we're all humans here. They basically did a 40 stitch resection of my head, where they pulled that down as a flap, and they were able to go into my brain and then take it out, and they put my skull back, and then they sewed it up. You really can't see it now. Since that time, I have undergone radiation, and that is where they do high photon rays. And I thought I'd pull this out too. So you have the surgery, then at the same time, you do radiation, which I'll explain in a second, and chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is a drug that you take every day, highly toxic, but it's designed to kill any remnant cells. The radiation was really cool. So when you're doing radiation of the brain, you have to lay perfectly still, because the laser gun that kind of goes around your head, it's done with highly sophisticated computers, but you can't have your head flopping around. So they create a custom thermoplastic mask that kind of is molded to your face. And then let's see if it still fits. My mustache has gotten a little bigger. And then you basically are locked down on a table and you cannot move. There's absolutely no movement in this. And so I did that for a series of about 30 days. You're basically locked on the table this way.
For how many minutes or hours?
No, so you the first series was about an hour each, just to get all of the targeting dialed in. You can see one of the targets here. There's another target right here. And then once the technicians have your specific information, it gets a lot easier. It's about 15 minutes per treatment, but you still have to come in and lay down. I'm humbled to say that there were people I met during radiation. An older man that said, "I'm sorry, I just will not do this because I'm claustrophobic." And I have compassion for that person because they couldn't do that. This little girl, 10 years old, 10 years old. You want to talk about courage. This is what courage looks like. This 10-year-old girl has a different type of brain cancer, and the only available treatment for her is radiation because chemotherapy is not an option, and her tumor was too deep in her cortical stem to operate on. So again, I go back to that. I've had an amazing 48 years. I want some more, et cetera, but that's tough, right? Where I'm at now, I've completed about 45 days of radiation and chemotherapy total. I've also completed, and I'm participating in a trial where they're going to be giving me injections into my neck that goes to my lymph nodes so that can go into my brain. I've got 2 more rounds of that over the next 6 weeks. And then for the rest of my life, I'm going to be on chemotherapy. And that's just the way it is. And so what my life looks like, I hope for another 30 years of health and strength. But yes, that's right. Every 30 days, I will go on an intensive chemotherapy where I take pills for a week. And that is to prophylactically just make sure if there are any cells that are still there, that they're being killed or in stasis. And then every quarter of the year, I will go back for MRI. And MRI is, I don't know what the phrase is in France. Have you heard of MRI?
No, but maybe it's me because I'm ignorant of the.
No. I do. So MRI is basically something resonance imaging, a magnetic resonance imaging, I think. It's basically a tube like a torpedo tube. And again, if you're claustrophobic, this could be a problem. You get inserted into the tube, and then it takes a giant picture of your brain, and it's very loud, but it can give you a 3D imaging of not only your brain. People get MRIs of their knees, their back, their chest, et cetera. But that will be designed to see if the cancer has come back. And so for the rest of my life, they call it scanxiety. You're kind of going about your life, and then the scan's coming up, and every cancer patient saying, "I hope it doesn't come back." Right.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
But guess what?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so I think it was one of our colleagues in London, I remember, that had cancer. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. My memory's been a bit hazy, but he suffered from prostate cancer, and he said, "Them's the breaks." And I always admired him for that, because sometimes you get cards like this, and then you just cards, and I'm well today, and I'm going to remain well today. And if things happen in the future, I'll address them at that time. That's the only way that I can respond to this.
Yeah. And you are raising funds. This is important to talk about, to help other people, to help research.
Yeah, that's the minute this happened, I really, like, my first thought was, well, how can I help other people that have this? How can I use my platform as a lawyer and 20 years of contacts around the world? Those are gifts that people have given me, of their time, of their friendship. And also, how can I raise awareness for this? I honestly didn't know what glioblastoma was before this happened. I mean, I knew that people would get brain cancer. I didn't understand how severe and how horrific this cancer is. And I want to raise awareness for it. What we've done, we set up a GoFundMe, which is a website where you can raise funds. So many people have encouraged me and said, look, we want to donate funds to you, Jeremy, because you may have unanticipated expenses. And there is a reality that a year from now, either I won't be here, or because this is brain related, I might not know who you are, Ansam. And that's sobering, right? How could anyone forget Ansam Elakbani,
No,
right?
we don't talk about bad. We
No,
we both still be here 30
yeah,
years, 40 years from
you know, there are a lot of ways you could say it. I hope, inshallah, like it's all good,
now.
and we want that. But I do think it is important, and I want people to understand just how to be transparent. I mean, this is really tough, and there are many other people that are suffering from this disease. And guess what? This disease doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, if you're from Africa, if you are from Asia. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years old. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old. It doesn't matter at all what your makeup is. It accepts all takers. And there is just a harsh reality to that. And any research that can go on is incredible. And guess what? It's going on. Think of what we're doing. The technology now, it didn't even exist, I think, 20 years ago be able to do this brain surgery. The technology to take a tumor, give it to a scientist, mix it with your white blood cells and create it into a vaccine, immunotherapy, that's a new technology. But that doesn't mean that research can stop. And that's what I'm trying to raise awareness for. We started with this GoFundMe page. Eventually, I'd like to be able to do direct kind of ambassadorship, if you will, for MD Anderson and the Ann C. Brooks Brain and Spine Center. MD Anderson, a very, I guess, internationally recognized cancer research center. People might be familiar with Sloan Kettering in New York, and then certainly overseas, there are many fine institutions as well. I really don't care who the institution is as long as we're raising awareness for brain cancer, which is now my new cause.
Okay, okay. And we're gonna help. And this podcast is also here to help raise awareness, and hopefully many people will watch the video, and we will put the link to the GoFundMe so that if someone they can donate any amount. Any
Yeah.
amount is useful and adds up to the others. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can also raise one other point of awareness, and this is to everyone listening. That thing that you're frustrated about at work, that point that maybe your spouse really rubbed you the wrong way. Remember yesterday how your kid got an F on their report card? Take all of those things, which are very important. I get it, but put them in perspective and imagine right now that a person in a white coat showed you a picture of your head with a 2-inch size golf ball and said, you've now been given one of the worst brain cancers out there. How would that reframe your life? And that's one way to look at it and say, okay, now it's going to cause me to rethink it. But you can actually live that way every day without a brain cancer diagnosis and say, maybe I shouldn't be so harsh to my opponent. Maybe my kid getting an F is an opportunity for me to show grace and show them how to act as an adult. Maybe I won't beat myself up because I didn't get partnership this year, because people have it a hell of a lot worse, right? And so this is a great lesson for all of us, just to amplify how beautiful our life is. And there's great power in that, even if you have brain cancer.
So, Jeremy, just to be transparent with people, I took a little break.
Perfect.
1 minute, so people will see a difference. But it's
Sure.
because in this part, we're gonna talk about Jeremy, the attorney, Jeremy, the in-house counsel, because you worked in Blank Rome, which is a very big law firm, as an attorney, and then about a year ago, no, you moved to work at Chevron.
Yeah, so about July of 2023.
Yeah. So I was curious to know how you shared the information with your colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, so my background, I graduated from law school from South Carolina in 2003. I think I'd mentioned earlier, I did an additional year of an LLM in Admiralty Law at Tulane, then practiced in New Orleans until about 2011. And then my wife and I moved to New York. So I was at Phelps Dunbar and then started at Blank Rome in New York. And then eventually became a partner in 2015, and we moved back down to Houston, Texas. I've always been honored to be a part of the Admiralty Bar in the United States. My grandfather had a shrimp boat, and I did a semester at sea when I was in college, and just knew that being on the water was something that I wanted to do in my profession. And I can think of no greater profession in terms of the law than being a maritime lawyer. It's just been such an exciting career, and then also the clients that I get to work with. I did in private practice, represented a wide variety of ship owners, but I've always had an interest in big oil, and it turns out Chevron was a client that many people had worked for. Obviously, Chevron's one of the largest oil companies in the world. And I got an incredible opportunity to join them in 2023. So to leave the private practice and go in-house as a lawyer with Chevron. When this happened, I think I quickly realized, I wasn't expecting it, but I quickly realized the incredible outpouring of support just from my professional community. Everyone from my colleagues at Chevron who have just been incredible. That there's no other word I could use except bold caps, underline, incredible. The support that the attorneys of Chevron have given me, the whole company as a whole, my colleagues at Blank Rome and Phelps Dunbar and other firms, adversaries. I'm humbled that my adversaries in private practice called me, and that really it really struck a chord that I think professionalism is such an important part of what we do as lawyers. You don't have to be an angry, tough guy lawyer. And what I learned from great mentors, not me, but incredible mentors in my life, is that treating your colleagues with courtesy, whether it's tactical or otherwise, it's just the right thing to do. And I feel like the firms that I've worked for, and certainly the company that I work for now, bad picture on some.
I lost you.
There you go.
No, you
You
were
were
you were saying I was frozen.
you were frozen, and I said a frozen picture of Ansam Elabani is not a bad picture to look at. So
I was frozen. We're not gonna cut. We're very transparent, you know.
of course, of course.
So I lost you. We're talking about your Chevron right now. You were saying, yeah, you were talking about the courtesy with people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it cut off, I guess what I was just trying to illustrate is that
Mm.
when I was diagnosed with brain cancer, um, that Chevron was absolutely incredible in supporting me. They support me to this day. And that all of my colleagues in the bar have really just been just outstanding. I'm humbled by the outpouring of support, and I'm just very grateful.
Yeah. So your daily life now, what does it look like?
Um, it's been really, I want to be very careful to say hard. I think my wife would describe me as someone who's very much kind of hard charger, go getter, stuck to his routine. And I think that that would probably be fair. I love routine. I love going to work. I love my my clients. I love the company I work for. I enjoy the interaction of being a lawyer with my colleagues, adversaries, everyone. That's been kind of hard to not want to immediately jump back into that. But I'm at a period now where I'm still kind of very much recovering. I've kind of suffered from fatigue, which is a bit of a gut check because I've never had fatigue in my life. Particularly during the radiation, it definitely messes with your brain. And so I'm taking it easy and listening to my doctors. And the goal for me is to get back to work as soon as possible, as long as it's safe to do so. I'm wise enough now at 48 to know, stay down, listen to your doctors, listen to your wife. And listen carefully, but I do feel like I'm on the mend. I've been able to walk again and run again. And I don't say those things lightly because they're definitely, in those weeks after the surgery, it was very scary as to you're kind of sitting there thinking of what your life looks like. And then I just got up and started walking. And then I started running again with a lot of help. I ran the Chevron half marathon 3 weeks after surgery. And
this is just amazing. I mean, I don't even run and I don't have cancer. You have a very aggressive cancer and you run a marathon and I mean
yeah, well,
it's incredible.
No, the guy, I remember when the diagnosis came in, they said it's a grade 4 glioblastoma, unmethylated wild type. And I kind of sat there and I'm like, well, that tracks. I don't even know what that is, but if it's wild, I'll just accept it and move on. I'm going to keep running and I'm going to keep raising awareness for as long as I can. And that's just how it's going to be.
Mm. And you are surrounded, from what I saw from the video for your birthday, you are surrounded by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Helps.
I use this word a lot, humbling, right? So MD Anderson Hospital is a big cancer hospital, right? And if you think of where many people are, maybe they're on the outskirts of suffering, right? They have their daily things that annoy them. Maybe sometimes they have issues come up. MD Anderson is in the Times Square of suffering. There are human beings there that are just faced with their own mortality on a regular basis. And I go to the non-denominational chapel every day that I'm there, and I just sit there. And there have been times where I've just met people, I've never even met them. We actually didn't even introduce ourselves, and you just hug them, right? Because it can be a really lonely place. But even in the darkest moments there's still opportunities for light, right? And many people with this same diagnosis would not feel comfortable sharing this with the world. And I honor that. I just feel like my DNA is programmed to say, well, okay, this happened. What can I do? What can we do to help other people that might be suffering from this? Because alleviation of suffering is a very big principle in Buddhism. And that's something that I feel like I have just a commitment to.
This is what I like. It's your positive attitude. It's you have this cancer and you always see the good side of what you can do.
Yeah.
This you're super strong because I don't know how I would behave.
Yeah.
Super.
How would you behave? Like, I mean, if this happened to you,
Oh my God,
what?
I would be so down. I would be so scared. I would cry a lot. Definitely
Yeah.
cry a lot.
Yeah. I've cried. I want to be very transparent. I've cried. You can't not cry. Crying is such a natural emotive response, right? I cried, but then I stopped and I said, well, some of that's tears of joy because I know Ansam, I know Maroi. I've got all these people around me. I've been in that chapel.
Don't put me in the same sentence as your wife. She might hear me. There is nothing.
Yeah, that's right. No, but there, but there is because it is people like you, people like Maroi, Lauren, and hundreds of others that have just come to my side. It doesn't matter what station you're in, wife, a colleague, partner, or stranger, I've I've been hugged by people and held by people in MD Anderson that, like I said, I've only met them once, and I don't have it on me. But when you go to MD Anderson, and I presume other big hospitals, you have to wear a white identification badge for you. They scan it, and the first thing you do when you get there is you kind of look at someone's wrist to see if they're a patient. Sometimes it's obvious. You see people with huge growths on their head, or they have to be wheeled around, or they're people like me. I mean, just because you're bald doesn't mean you've had radiation.
Yeah.
But there's a collective sense when these things happen, doesn't matter what community you're in, people want to help. People want to hold one another, because being in a community is something that is intrinsically human, right? And I feel like I'm experiencing that with this incredible, whoever's out there listening to this incredible community. All I have is nothing but gratitude for what you all are doing for me and my family.
And I think another question I would ask myself is, why is this happening to me?
Okay, that is an amazing question, and here's my response. Okay, because I asked that too, but then I quickly answered it, and then I've never asked it again. So I'm a huge fan of Stoicism, and you're thinking about people like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca. And the Stoic response to this would say, okay, something happened to me. I got brain cancer. My response, did I have any control over this? Did I have any agency over this? And if the answer to that question is yes, well, then boo on me. I caused this to myself. Time for some ownership. But if the answer to that question is no, and in this instance, I mean, I don't know what I did, if I did anything to cause it. I didn't have any agency over this. So how can I be angry at it? It sucks, but why did this happen to me has never really been something I've just interacted with, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, if I say there's no reason why this happened to me, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually wasting time, because I'm never going to get an answer to that question. And I don't think I caused it. If I smoked 2 packs of Marlboro Reds a day and we were having a discussion because I got lung cancer, there'd be a little bit of some pissed off Jeremy going, I caused this. And the other thing the other question that I came up with too, that I was answering, is a lot of people are like, wait a second, you've got the wrong guy. I'm supposed to live to 80 and walk my grandkids down the aisle, and then I'm going to die in my sleep. That's my plan.
Mm.
But that also is not really in my control, right? I mean, I run half marathons. I'm super healthy. I don't eat McDonald's. Sorry, McDonald's. But I don't.
You remember the McDonald's?
Yeah, I know. But it's like I've done everything I can to try to stay healthy. And if this happened to me, then there's great peace to know that, like, look, I live in a very high functioning Western society. I'm very grateful that I'm not surrounded by war and famine and vice. But that doesn't mean I'm not still subject to the laws of the world. And I have no statistics. There are 300,000 people in the world right now that have the exact same thing that I'm going through, and they have a different set of cards. So, like, how can I be angry at this? It's just the way it is, you know?
Yeah. Well, it takes it means you're very strong, because all this is not natural to think like this.
Are you saying I'm crazy on some?
No.
Okay, I'll just put this back on. Receive. Go ahead, on top. You were saying?
I mean, no, I would definitely sit down and think, why is this happening to me? Why? And being so angry at life. And but so but you have the right attitude. If you cannot control something, as Cherry says, it is what it is. Cherry Almeida.
That's right. And I mean, I think the Stoic,
Yeah.
and I also think the Zen response too is that every day that is your life is a series of moments, and every moment has the opportunity to teach us something. Every moment is valuable. And if you go through your life thinking and only saving up the good times for that vacation, or, I'm not going to pay attention to all the other things, it's the graduation of my son that I'm really focused on, you're missing huge gaps of time where you could go back to say, I just had a wonderful moment sharing coffee with my wife in our pajamas. That is just as valuable as if my daughter graduates from the Naval Academy, right? It's like, if you start treating every moment in life like it's this sacred thing, then when things hit the fan, you're like, yeah, but I've had this whole string of sacred things. And that's what's sustaining me right now.
True. Well, that was an amazing and unique episode.
Yeah.
That we both wish we had never have to record it, obviously. I wish we had recorded the regular episode where you tell me about your experience as an attorney and in house lawyer.
That would be probably much more boring. And before we get off, I want to express gratitude to you, Ansam. You have always been someone that I admired. I remember from the first moment I met you overseas, I thought, wow, what a composed, just smart, just engaging person. I knew about you before that happened. Was a little intimidated by you, but that quickly.
Intimidated? No.
I'm just so grateful for your friendship and also for what you're doing to help raise awareness for glioblastoma. If there is anyone listening to this that wants more information, please look at the MD Anderson Ann C. Brooks Brain and Spine Center. And I just want to thank anyone that's taking their time to listen to this and let you know that hope exists. You can always find, even in your darkest moments, a ray of sunshine. Thank you, Ansam.
I cannot say anything after that. You said everything that is important and that has to be said. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ansam.
For being yourself. Thank you. Bye-bye, Jeremy.
Bye.
Bye.